Here's a controversial note. Jesus is not Lord of the world. This is not his world. There's actually a couple texts that even allude to this. I think the writer in 1 John says that this world has been overtaken by the evil one. And then I think Jesus references in John's gospel, says that those in the world don't recognize the word, the truth of God, and that those who have been made new in the kingdom, right, are no more part of the world than Jesus is part of the world. We're supposed to be in the world, but not of it. And so when we start talking about rest, this is the series that we've been in for the last 2-3 weeks. When we start talking about rest, the world's definition of rest has a lot to do with feeling whole, complete, all back together, right? Like we'll rest when the job is done. We will stop once we've accomplished or gotten what we wanted. I'm not sure that is the kingdom. That's not Jesus's, that's not our Creator's perspective of rest and wholeness and completion. There's a word in Hebrew I love, and maybe you've heard it before, shalom, and it's typically translated as peace, and we've talked about this before, but really it more so has to do with something that is not whole, something that is missing a portion. And shalom is when it's all back together, everything in its right place. I want to ask you that right now. So we've been in this series about rest. Do you feel complete? Do you feel whole? Do you feel peace? Do you feel shalom? Because that is God's dream for you. That everything that you are always supposed to be in his plan, by his purpose, was to be all together. And so life in the world might not always be peachy keen. Is that the phrase, peachy keen? But somehow we would still have wholeness in the midst of all this pain and troubles and frustrations. And the problem is that a lot of us don't live by God and the kingdom's perspective of rest, of wholeness, of shalom. We live by the world's, right? Which would say, if you're not feeling complete or fulfilled, do more, work harder, work longer hours, sleep less, do more. And Jesus is not called Lord of the world and Lord of those rhythms. He's actually called Lord of the Sabbath, Lord even of the Sabbath, Lord of the Sabbath. And this word Sabbath, Shabbat in Hebrew, literally means to stop, to be still, stopping of motion. So when we call Jesus Lord of the Sabbath, he's really Lord of rest. He's Lord of stopping. He's Lord of stillness. When's the last time you really stopped? I mean, intentionally stopped. Not just for a second, but like for a good portion of your day. And there's a difference between stopping and becoming refilled and stopping and being on TikTok for hours, right? I mean, you can really get lost in TikTok or whatever it is that you browse, right? Whatever thing catches your attention. And so you're not working, but you're also not being replenished. So many of us, you don't even have to be a part of church and all these different things. I mean, everybody is just not rested. We are running on empty. In the Genesis account, God has an order and a rhythm for each and every day. The first day of the week starts off with this huge, bang. There's nothing, and then there's everything. Or at least the components to begin everything, right? There's void, and there's nothingness, and then there's something. Each day progresses in this beautiful order until on the final day, Saturday, Sabbath, there's a stillness, there's a rest. I want you to think about your week. I mean, as you start, so I'm filming this on Sunday, but this won't release for another day or two. As you go through your week, is there an order, or are you just like left foot, right, just like trying to trudge through? In the Genesis account, God is not human, but God does not seem to be like, I'll make fish. I'll make the foliage. It seems like there's quite a bit of beautiful, divine energy there. And when he makes you and I don't think that we enter into like this stressful situation. Instead, like God is creating, and then we're creating with him, right? And taking care of things. And then we all together rest. A lot of us, we can't even remember moments of rest, but imagine a whole day. I mean, it seems like it's God's plan. It's in the very first pages of the Bible. He's not just doing it in and of himself, he's doing it with you and I. He creates man and then he rests to show us how to rest. When's the last time you really rested? Jesus' final week before he was crucified and killed begins on a Sunday, just like creation began. So Jesus comes in. We typically call this Palm Sunday because of the celebration that welcomed him into Jerusalem, into God's holy city. Every day that week has got different things that he's checking off. He's very intentional. He's not just like, I wonder what's going to happen. And as the week progresses, it gets more and more intense, right? He's betrayed, he's put on trial, he's beat, he's tortured, he's pushed to the brink of death as he is crucified. And that moment is Good Friday when he dies. And so come Saturday, the Sabbath in God's plan, Jesus is dead. He has no choice but to rest and be still. And the beautiful part of the story is the next day starts the new week. And with this new start, we celebrate on Easter this resurrection, right? So 1 week ended, there's this complete stopping so that something new could begin next. A lot of us have not stopped in days, weeks, months, and years. And I'd argue if there is no stopping, there is no death of sorts, then there is no resurrection for any of us in our lives. No refilling, no things being put back in the right place, no shalom. I mean, don't you need that right now? I need that. I need it every single week. I need to know that as I hit the week running, right, I'm excited to get things done, and then very quickly I turn, I change, I'm like, I'm exhausted, I'm fried. And that's okay, that's part of living. But we mustn't ignore those symptoms, right? As we output, as we produce and make, these are beautiful things to create as God created. But even God did not just endlessly produce and create. There's a stopping, there's a stillness. I bet you need that. I think we all need that. I think it's written into our DNA that we were made for this rest. And I'd argue if Jesus is called Lord of the Sabbath, if we disobey the Sabbath, we're disobeying the Lord of the Sabbath. We are disconnected from the Lord of the Sabbath if we have no Sabbath. If we do not stop, we're connected from the Lord of stopping. If we do not rest, we're disconnected from the Lord of rest. You were never made to produce endlessly. And I know you've got a lot of goals and a lot of lists and a lot of things you've got to get done. I just wonder how much more joy, hope, how much less anxiety and stress and worry you'd experience if not just daily you had these little moments of just stopping and being still. Christians call these like devotional times, right? Quiet times. But I think behind all that religiosity is something beautiful, that we start and end our days, pause before God. And then once a week, we stop and pause before God. There's no more, we're not buying a bunch of things, we're not working on a bunch of things, we're just stopping and being still. I want to challenge you on that. We've got a card, I'm putting it up on the screen right now. It should be over here actually. And it's a variation of the Lord's Prayer. I think if we started, maybe even midday, and at the end of our day, just pause. It takes you 20 seconds to read this prayer. It would recenter us and remind us we're not made to just keep going, gorge down your lunch, keep going. You were made to stop, reflect with your God, be still with your God, and then have some life breathed back into us so we can keep going. But without a stop, there is no restart. Without a death of sorts to this momentum, there is no resurrection. I want to challenge you on that. I want us to do this together because I think on the other end of our stopping, our stillness, is more progression, more progress, more hope than we could have ever imagined. We've just got to be okay with a death of sorts. And on the other end of that is a beautiful resurrection.